This week on ICN, the stories you should have heard, but didn't. Southern Poverty Law Center, and the propaganda continues. New study shows majority of Americans don't trust their government. FBI claims homegrown extremists as serious as Al-Qaeda. Obama administration caught doctoring jobs numbers. Those stories and more next on Informed Citizen News. Hello and welcome to ICN, Informed Citizen News, April 25th, 2010. The Southern Poverty Law Center came out with a report last week that would make Stalin or even Chairman Mao proud. The report, called Meet the Patriots, is an enemy of the state list as judged by the SPLC. They claim the list identifies 35 leaders of a so-called resurgence in the Patriot movement, along with 5 enablers of national prominence. One of our primary missions at ICN is to report on the elite and powerful. With a $150 million war chest, the SPLC wields heavy influence in government and media circles. As frustration with Washington politicians grow, the SPLC is out full force in the media, attempting to marginalize legitimate dissent. With its roots in democratic and liberal causes, even the Washington Post refers to the SPLC as a controversial liberal organization. So how does one qualify for the SPLC's anti-government patriot list? Let's first start with the label anti-government patriot. Contradictory on its face, one cannot be a patriot and anti-government. As we will see in a moment, not one person on the list wishes to overthrow the government or eliminate the Constitution. To the contrary, all 40 members of the so-called anti-government patriot movement call for strict adherence to the Constitution. Not one has ever called for violence, insurrection, or rebellion. The Southern Poverty Law Center disagrees politically with these people, and with its influence in the media, peddles misinformation and gross mischaracterizations in an attempt to blacklist those legitimately critical of our elected politicians. The Southern Poverty Law Center must be exposed for what they are: a well-funded leftist organization that supports business as usual for the two-party stranglehold on unresponsive government. Now let's take a look at the Southern Poverty Law Center's list of so-called anti-government patriots. We won't be able to cover all 40, but here is a cross-section in no particular order. Edwin Vieira, Harvard-educated constitutional lawyer. SPLC charge? Vieira is an advocate for strict constitutional principles and believes that activist judges should be impeached. Joe Bannister, former IRS special agent. SPLC charge? Bannister insists that the IRS has no authority to administer and enforce federal income tax laws. While working as a special agent for the IRS, Bannister investigated tax protester claims for 2 years. He concluded they were right and informed his IRS supervisors. He was placed on leave, then resigned in 1999 to comply with his oath to support and defend the U.S. Constitution. Chris Broughton, SPLC charge? Legally carried a firearm to an Obama rally and was quoted as saying that he believes there is a hell and it was made for evil people. Folks like Obama, both former Bush presidents, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and leaders of the Southern Poverty Law Center. We can see why the SPLC is not his biggest fan. Paul Venable, the charge? Active in the Constitution Party. He proudly states that he and his wife have been presenting Constitution classes and teaching the principles of liberty since 2004. Wrapping up the list are what the SPLC calls the enablers, national personalities that support the ideals of the anti-government patriot movement. Ron Paul, Judge Andrew Napolitano, Glenn Beck, elected congressional representatives Paul Braun and Michelle Bachmann, none of which advocate violence or rebellion against the government. The profile descriptions of each personality are full of contradictions and juvenile attempts at mocking their targets. The anti-government patriot list put out by the Southern Poverty Law Center is quite simply a fear-mongering propaganda piece. The SPLC, oblivious to their own hypocrisy, concludes Congresswoman Bachmann's profile by showing a quote of hers from a TV interview where she said, "I wish the American media would take a good look at the views of the people in Congress and find out, are they pro-America or anti-America?" The SPLC then concludes, somewhere Joseph McCarthy must be smiling. Whether you call it an enemies list or an un-American activities list, the Southern Poverty Law Center's Meet the Patriots report is hypocrisy of the highest order and persecution based on political beliefs. America was created to be the free market of ideas. The SPLC thinks that's too dangerous. A new study shows that almost 80% of Americans don't trust the government to do what's right. Trusting government has declined steadily since the question was first asked in 1958, when 73% trusted their government. 77% of those surveyed also identified themselves as frustrated or angry with government. FBI Director Robert Mueller claimed this month that homegrown and lone wolf extremists now represent as serious a threat as Al-Qaeda and its affiliates. An FBI spokesman told the Times of London yesterday that Mr. Mueller was referring to right-wing extremist groups and anti-government militias, as well as American Islamists. Mueller made this statement while testifying before the Senate to justify his $8.3 billion budget for the coming year. Just a note from an earlier report here on ICN, the U.S. Army has deployed the 3rd Infantry Division's 1st Brigade Combat Team to the U.S. under a new domestic mission. The combat team is referred to as the Consequence Management Response Force. It marked the first time an active unit has been given a dedicated assignment to NORTHCOM, a joint command established in 2002 to provide command and control for federal homeland defense efforts. This domestic combat team may be called upon to help with civil unrest and crowd control, or to deal with a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, or high-yield explosive. The Obama administration was caught doctoring numbers in order to make the stimulus look more successful than it was. Most Americans watching the national media will be fooled, but careful analysis show clear manipulation. In January 2009, the Obama administration told the American people that without the stimulus, we would only have 134 million jobs by 2010. The latest report claims that without the stimulus, there would only be 127 million jobs, a massive 7 million job restatement in order to claim that the current job count of 130 million made the stimulus a success. The truth is, the stimulus did not create or save any jobs. Using Obama's own baseline from 2009 shows 4 million jobs lost. The stimulus just funneled money to Wall Street and government agencies. The SEC charged Goldman Sachs with fraud this month, but one expert who worked as a regulator during the savings and loan crisis of the 1980s calls the SEC a sham. Bill Black, former regulator, now college professor, was quoted in Fortune magazine as saying, "The SEC is a farce, and it's been a farce for a decade. We got over 1,000 felony convictions in the savings and loan debacle of senior insiders. We have 0 today of any of the senior lenders in non-prime. That's just an astonishing thing. There have been no criminal charges yet in this crisis. That's the dog that hasn't barked yet. Where is the Justice Department?" Mr. Black is very blunt in his analysis. He provided testimony before Congress, and we have included it in our source links. It's worth watching, as he appears to be one of the few that has been called to testify to lay it all out in clear and simple language for our representatives in Congress. Due to a budget shortfall, the LA County court system is in chaos. The crisis results from California's decision to slash $393 million from state trial courts this year. The Los Angeles court system has already closed 17 courtrooms, and another 50 will be shut down in September unless something is done to find more money. Presiding Superior Court Judge Charles McCoy Jr. stated, "It's unprecedented. Even during the Great Depression, we did not close down court operations. We kept the courts open." Custody hearings, divorce proceedings, small claims disputes, juvenile dependency matters, and civil lawsuits have been delayed amid the courtroom shutdowns. All the while, according to Washington and the national press, the economy is coming back. Thanks for joining us this week. Please share our channel with your friends and family. From all of us at Informed Citizen News, have a good week.